egg tempera paintings, and let's talk about what egg tempera is. Egg tempera is a type of paint that's permanent, fast drying, and it consists of pigment, which is color, mixed with some water, and a binder, which holds the paint together. We use an egg yolk. And tempera refers to paintings that were done in this medium, and they're called tempera paintings. And they're very long lasting, and they've been used for a very long time. In fact, we have paintings from the 1st century that have lasted, and I'm going to show you samples of that. Egg tempera was the primary method of painting until known paintings. This one happens to be tempera on wood with gold in the background. It was done in the year 1284. Madonna and Child. You could see how well that held up. The next one I'm going to show you was done in 1367. Niccolo Semitecolo, another religious painting that depicts the kings. And most of them were religious paintings done for the church. This one is Michelangelo's painting. And this was done in 1500s in High Renaissance. It was created in 1504 in Florence. This is Sandro Botticelli, Madonna of the Magnificat, or this was also in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, 1480, 1481. Notice the fine details you can get with the egg tempera. And of course, this is the very famous Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, which was also done with egg tempera. This is another one of Sandro Botticelli's pieces, very famous, The Birth of Venus, also done on tempera canvas, backed on wood, 1486. As we go along, you will see more contemporary pieces, like the English artist William Blake, who loved doing very surreal type of things. But he also depicted a lot of biblical scenes, like this one, which is Adam naming the beasts, and this one of the body of Abel found by Adam and Eve. So they're very interesting pieces of surreal feelings in the painting. This is a contemporary piece by Andrew Wyeth called Christina's World, and he's using egg tempera, and you get beautiful fine details with that. This is another beautiful piece by Andrew Wyeth, Portrait of a Woman, and again, this is tempera. This is Paul Camus, who was depicting the street scenes in Paris at the time during World War II. And this is another lovely artist, Remedios Varo, who did this piece in the 1960s. Beautiful piece, egg tempera. And this is a more contemporary artist, Ben Shahn. Though he was born in Russia, he was raised in Brooklyn, New York, in a section called Williamsburg, not far from my original hometown. And he is known as a social realist, and he worked in egg tempera. As you can see, the scenes that he depicted are everyday goings on with a bit of a political and social slant to it, especially with the trial of Sacco and Vanzetti. It was a controversial trial at the time, and this was done in the 1930s. This is a portrait of himself as a young boy, and you'll see him way in the background, where you see street musicians in his neighborhood. So, that's a little bit of art history, and now we're going to go into the actual making of the egg tempera. video, we're going to now be making the actual egg tempera. And what you are going to be looking at is some photos of the materials that you need, which is egg yolk, powdered paints, and water, distilled water, vinegar. In my sink, kitchens are the greatest places to create your art materials. This is a mortar and pestle, which is going to pound the pastels. We're going to be using chalk pastels or just chalk, everyday chalk that your teachers write on the board with. But the actual artist pastels, not the oil pastels, the chalk pastels have more pigment. That means they have deeper color. So we will be using that. Notice I'm putting a paper towel into the mortar and pestle, and then I'm pounding it. I'm also using a wood mallet, otherwise known as a wood hammer, to really make it even finer. And then we take an egg and crack it over a cup and remove the egg whites. I do that by hand. And what you're going to end up with is the egg yolk. And then you're going to dry it on a paper towel. Make sure the egg is fresh so that the egg yolk is nice and solid. Then you're going to take a needle, any sharp item will do. A potter's needle is okay. I'm using one of those long needles that a poultry needle. And you're going to poke the egg yolk. Make sure to hold it over the cup, because all of a sudden you're going to have all that liquid pouring out. You're going to remove that little sack that the egg yolk's liquid is in. Then you're going to get some distilled water, and you're going to get some white vinegar. And I use a dropper to put the ingredients in. That's actually called a pipette, but any dropper, an eyedropper, or any kind of dropper you have in the house, so you can control the amount and it doesn't spill all over the place. Next thing we're going to do is mix it up, and we are now ready for painting. And what I did was I used the image of a famous artist, Henri Rousseau. He was a French artist. He's not alive anymore, but he's a self-taught artist. He would go to the zoo and use his imagination, and this one we're doing is the Sleeping Gypsy. So it's got a gypsy falling asleep in some kind of desert, and there's the lion, and look at her. She's got her mandolin, it's kind of a guitar, and she's got a pitcher next to her, and she's completely oblivious. That means she doesn't know that there's a lion looking to, I don't know what. But it's a great moment in his imagination and very dreamlike. So mixing this all together, we're going to be using an egg carton. I find that a really very inexpensive way to put your paints in. I've crushed up a bunch of different colors, and I'm going to be using that mixed with the egg tempera and powdered pastels, and away we go. So enjoy the process. I'm speeding it up a little bit so that you can you don't have to sit there for an hour and watching me finish this. I'll see you later.